Now having all of this, I think it's a lot of pressure, right?
It's definitely a lot of pressure, but I surround very good people who keep me grounded and try to just stay as true to myself as I possibly can.
With this video of Rachel Zegler alone in a theater watching herself. One of the most unlikable humans.
That
ever.
is sadder than when the original Snow White eats the apple.
She didn't just storm off. She didn't just argue. Word on the street is she allegedly hurled a prop across the stage during the final Evita rehearsal, and guess what? That jaw-dropping moment, whispers about it have been floating around for weeks, has now reportedly been caught on camera. Sources close to the scene are buzzing. The leaked footage supposedly shows the exact second things blew up. It's intense, it's raw. Rachel's right in the middle of a performance, then boom. She breaks character, shouts something off mic, and launches what looks like a rehearsal prop, maybe a scarf or even a mic, clear across the stage. The whole cast freezes, the crew just stops, and for what feels like forever, the place falls totally silent. This is the moment fans have been dying to piece together. It's the moment that's tied to the lawsuit, the breaking point before her removal, the chaos that led to the leak. There were even notes from the director calling her a nightmare to work with, and now the truth is spilling out.
I want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have when I say that this has been the biggest adjustment of my life, like understanding the way my life operates now, being who I am, and the things that I've been so fortunate to make. It comes with so much ground that I never thought I would be able to cover.
You'd have to be living under a rock to not know about all of the backlash that Rachel Zegler has been getting for being a complete bozo. Every time I see this video, I just keep reminding myself that she is an actress. You can tell that she's acting. Check this out.
And other people think I'm doing gracefully, and I don't think I'm doing it at all. So when I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. That's hard.
It's so hard for me to go out there and be an actress and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Rachel Zegler should probably come out and just throw all of the seven magical creatures under the bus and turn everybody's gaze to them so that way she stops taking so much heat.
The clip, which insiders say has been zipping around private West End group chats and media inboxes, is short, just under 30 seconds. But it's got enough heat to shake things up. Not only does it back up pieces of the producer's original lawsuit, but it's raising a whole new set of questions. Like, why was someone filming at that moment, huh? Was this whole thing just a wild outburst or something way more planned? If you listen to Rachel's countersuit, the one where she claims the Evita team created a hostile work environment and leaked private rehearsal footage just to wreck her rep, then this video might not be the smoking gun fans think it is. It might be a straight-up setup, and that's what's making this whole leak even more explosive. Depending on who you believe, this wasn't some diva flipping out. It was a young actress getting pushed to her breaking point. So what really went down that day? Who else was caught up in it? And why does this one rehearsal, this one heated outburst, feel like the moment where everything totally fell apart? Let's rewind the tape. The day Rachel allegedly threw that prop wasn't just messy, it was the beginning of the end. It was supposed to be a routine run-through. The cast of Evita gathered for what everyone thought would be a standard final rehearsal. The house lights were down, the tech crew was ready, scripts were long gone, and everybody knew their cues. Everyone felt the pressure. But even before the first note hit, insiders say the tension in that room was thick enough to cut with a knife.
Just a huge attempt by her PR team to make her seem like she's apologetic for the things that she's said about Snow White and the things that she's said about the upcoming film coming out. Don't believe it.
One assistant stage manager who supposedly spilled the tea off the record said the vibe that day was off, like everyone could feel something was about to go down. Rachel apparently showed up late by almost 15 minutes. Not enough to officially get called out, but just enough to get the director and choreographer giving her the side eye. And that wasn't even the worst of it. The same source claims Rachel totally skipped the usual warm-up, a huge red flag in theater circles. Instead of joining the cast for the vocal and movement exercises, she was allegedly sitting off to the side, flipping through notes, and sipping from a branded water bottle in total silence. By the time the rehearsal actually kicked off, the whole mood was already on edge. Right from the start, things felt shaky. Rachel reportedly missed a key stage cue during the opening act. A supporting actor, whose name hasn't come out, apparently tried to steer her back into position real smooth, but witnesses say Rachel shot back, "I know where I'm supposed to be." The cast kept it moving, but you could see the cracks. By the time they got to Don't Cry For Me, Argentina, the pressure had reportedly hit a boiling point. Rachel allegedly stumbled through the emotional blocking of the scene, skipping a key turn, missing the dramatic drop to her knees, and that's when the director supposedly called out corrections. Sources say this was the moment everything shifted.
The only thing I can really say is that that is not my story to tell. Those are not my updates to give. And in the film industry, when you are an actor, when you sign one of these contracts in the entertainment industry, I think a lot of people on the outside think that if you are somebody who has a lot of publicity around you and your name's attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case. Unless you are Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively with all of their films apparently, or Margot Robbie in Barbie and you are also an executive producer. As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if the film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look. That is our job, and that was my job on this production. So again, that's really all I can say.
Rachel allegedly broke character, turned straight to the production table, and just stopped. She looked totally frustrated. The music kept playing, but her energy, it was gone. And then she raised her voice. Not loud enough to yell, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Exactly what she said depends on who you ask, but what happened next? That part's undeniable. Moments later, she supposedly snatched a prop from a nearby set piece and chucked it. It happened in a flash, but the shock? That lasted for hours, at least according to multiple insider accounts. The thing Rachel threw wasn't heavy or dangerous, but in that moment, it didn't have to be. It was pure symbolism, a total breaking point.
It is the real beginning of my life as a young lady of America. Of America.
Some say it was a rolled-up rehearsal scarf from a costume change. Others claim it was her marked-up script binder. One witness even said it was just a paper prop, like a fake letter or note used in a scene. And whatever it was, it flew across the stage and landed with a loud, awkward slap against the floor. It didn't hit anyone, but the sound and the silence that followed, chilling. Everyone froze. Not just the actors, not just the director, the entire room stopped, according to one chorus member who shared the details anonymously. You could feel the air just leave the room. People weren't mad, they were straight up stunned. Like, did that really just happen? Rachel reportedly just stood there for a second after throwing the prop. No explanation, no sorry, just a long pause, a look of frustration written all over her face, and then she turned her back to the audience. She walked off to the side of the stage. Some say they heard her mutter something under her breath, something about being disrespected, something about not being a puppet. But none of it got picked up on the mic, and that's part of what's keeping the buzz going. Then the reaction finally kicked in. The director stood up from the production table. A couple of stage crew started whispering to each other. The stage manager called for a break, and one by one, the rest of the cast quietly left the stage. One source claims a supporting cast member even walked past Rachel and said, "That was uncalled for." Rachel didn't say a word. But what really turned this moment into a full-on controversy is what supposedly happened right after that break. Instead of coming back to the stage, Rachel stayed backstage, according to crew reports. She was apparently pulled aside by the assistant director and 2 members of the production team. Nobody knows what was said in that chat, but Rachel didn't return for the rest of rehearsal.
Hey, you wanna play? Let's run away before it's Christmas Day. And take me out. Meow.
And an hour later, an internal rehearsal report was allegedly filed about the whole mess. The prop incident got written up in full detail along with this line: "This behavior was escalated, disruptive, and violated the company's conduct expectation." That exact wording, or pretty close to it, later popped up in the lawsuit filed against her just days later. And that's not the only thing that's come back around. Now fans are convinced this was the moment that sparked the leaked nightmare to work with note from the director, the one that flipped public opinion against Rachel, the one that set this whole storm in motion. But here's the twist. Nobody really knows who leaked it or why. If you believe Rachel's countersuit, this wasn't some accident. It was a trap. Right after that prop hit the floor, the silence was chilling. No one yelled. No one clapped back. No one tried to cover it up. It was like the pressure had finally snapped, and everyone in that room knew there was no way to rewind it. The stage manager, trying to hold it all together, immediately called for a 10-minute break. But this wasn't your usual break. No one was laughing or stretching it out in the wings. Cast members left the stage completely. Some reportedly hid away in the dressing rooms. Others stood around in little groups, whispering backstage. Everyone was waiting to see what Rachel was gonna do. But she didn't say a word. Witnesses say she just stood near the wings, frozen, one hand on her hip, shaking. Not crying, not apologizing, just locked in this strange, stubborn silence. A chorus member later spilled the tea to theater gossip blogs, saying one of the newer castmates looked absolutely terrified. She didn't know what to do. It was her first West End production. And here she was, watching the star of the show chuck a prop across the stage right in front of the director. That's not something you just forget. After a few minutes, the assistant director reportedly approached Rachel. No yelling, just a tense back and forth. In hushed voices, Rachel allegedly stood her ground and said, "You keep pushing me. You want a reaction. Now you got one." Those words, if they're true, could either haunt her or help her, depending on who's telling the story. Rachel didn't come back for the rest of the day. She left quietly before the break even ended. No formal announcement, no meeting, just a quick text to her rep. By the end of the day, rumors were already flying through the cast. And by the next morning, a phrase started popping up in backstage whispers. That was the final straw. The same phrase that later showed up in leaked internal notes. The same one that painted Rachel as unmanageable, the same one that helped push her out. But now, thanks to the leaked footage, fans are asking something else. Was this really a breakdown, or was it a buildup? By the time the cast came back from break, Rachel was gone. But the director wasn't. And he wasn't calm. Multiple insiders say the director, whose name's been kept out of the press, but who's reportedly a longtime West End veteran. He was visibly shaken, not in a dramatic, over-the-top way, but in that cold, professional, we're done here kind of vibe. One source described his reaction as measured but final. Instead of blowing up, he reportedly walked straight over to the stage manager and asked for a formal report to be filed. This wasn't just a note in some rehearsal journal. This was official documentation, the kind used for contracts, HR files, and legal backup. By that evening, an internal memo was supposedly sent out to producers and senior creatives. It laid everything out: Rachel's alleged lateness, the missed blocking, the verbal exchange, and of course, the prop throwing incident. And that memo, according to one leak, ended with a short but brutal line. Lead talent has become a liability. Short, but it hit hard, and word of it spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, Rachel's name was reportedly yanked off the internal call sheet for the next day's rehearsal.
When you're there and you're trying to do your best, you've worked on this part, you spend hours and hours on end trying to get this character just down right for your big audition, and then if you have a producer or casting director sitting there and then eating food in front of you, yeah, it can be very annoying. Personally, I've never had that experience.
A replacement actress, the one seen in that now viral leaked clip, was brought in. Officially, it was just a stand-in, according to production insiders, but everybody knew what it meant. It didn't take long before security got involved. Rachel wasn't forcibly dragged out like some tabloids might suggest, but she was reportedly told not to return to the venue until further notice. One crew member summed it up. They weren't gonna fire her. They were gonna freeze her out. The producers knew this could blow up fast, so they started prepping legal action. The same breach of contract lawsuit that would be making headlines just days later. But even they didn't see what was coming next, because while they were getting ready to bury her with paperwork, Rachel was working on her own version of the story. One that claimed the whole meltdown, the memo, the freeze out. None of it was just a natural consequence. It was a setup. Then the footage changed everything. It wasn't public at first, just a quiet little clip floating around in private group chats, casting circles, and WhatsApp threads between West End insiders. But once it hit the internet, even in its grainy, out-of-focus mess, it sparked a total firestorm. People had heard the rumors, they'd read the director's notes, they knew about the lawsuit, but now they were seeing something. And no matter how blurry or short that clip was, it brought the whole story to life in a way that words never could. In the clip, you can see Rachel mid-performance, reportedly during a high-intensity rehearsal scene. Her voice is raised, her body tense. She breaks character, hurls the prop, and then boom, a freeze frame. You don't even need to hear the audio to feel the tension. TikTok editors jumped on it immediately. Within hours, reaction breakdown clips were everywhere. Some slowed the footage down, others zoomed in tight on Rachel's face, and a few even tried to ID who else was in the frame when that prop hit the floor. The internet, as always, split right down the middle. Some people saw the clip as proof she lost it. That's not how a lead's supposed to act, they said, but others saw it as a setup. Why was someone recording? Who leaked it? And why now? Over on Twitter, theater professionals started weighing in. One stage actor tweeted, "If I got filmed every time I cracked in rehearsal, I'd be canceled 5 times over." But not everyone was so forgiving. This isn't drama class. This is a professional production. There's no excuse, critics fired back. Casting directors, PR reps, and even entertainment lawyers were now glued to the fallout. Because this wasn't just about a thrown prop anymore. This was about trust, about professionalism, about public image, the kind of image that can make or break a whole career.
For different people.
Oh God.
But this human being
No.
might be the worst or best, from some perspective, at breaking on set.
Yes. So he's a liar. Print that.
She was enjoying herself. That's okay.
And it was only with Jack Dylan Grazer. That was the only time I ever broke. No one else ever broke me, I don't think.
Before the clip leaked, it was all he said, she said, whispers, memos, director notes, legal filings. But nobody outside the theater walls had seen the moment that supposedly ended Rachel Zegler's run as Evita. It was all secondhand until now. And with the footage out there, everything is being re-examined. At first glance, the video seems to back up what the producers described. Rachel breaks character, her voice rises, and then, boom, the prop flies. But when you watch it closely, something's off. She's clearly upset, but she's not screaming. The throw doesn't come off as violent. It's quick, but not aggressive. And the room, it doesn't explode into chaos. That silence is what's making people side-eye the whole situation. Because if this was really a full-on meltdown, why didn't anyone react? No yelling, no crew rushing in. Why did it feel expected? Some fans, and even a few theater insiders, are saying this wasn't just some freak-out moment. They think it was planned. A setup to push Rachel until she snapped, then catch it all on tape. And Rachel's countersuit is adding heat to that theory. Her legal team claims the production staff created a hostile environment, cut her off, baited her into reacting, and then leaked only just enough footage to justify kicking her out. They say that clip isn't proof of her meltdown. It's proof of pressure, manipulation, and sabotage dressed up as discipline. But if the producers are right, if this really was just the last straw in a string of reckless behavior, then that footage seals the deal. It shows Rachel cracking under pressure, shows she wasn't ready to carry the role. That's why this little clip, just a few blurry seconds of drama, is making waves. It's no longer about what people said happened. It's about what everyone saw. And in the court of public opinion, video wins every time. Now we know what really happened, or at least what it looked like, the moment everyone's been whispering about. The rehearsal that didn't end with applause or even notes. Just a stage frozen in silence and a prop smacking the ground. It's no longer just a footnote buried in some director's leaked memo. It's a visual, a 27-second clip that's been seen, shared, dissected, and argued over by everybody on the internet. And now, Rachel Zegler's so-called meltdown has turned into way more than just backstage gossip. It's a turning point. Depending on which side you're on, that clip is either proof that she couldn't handle the pressure, or it's evidence she was pushed to her breaking point right on cue. What's impossible to ignore is how much weight this one moment is carrying. What looked like an emotional outburst in the middle of a tough rehearsal has now become the foundation of 2 lawsuits. A full-on PR disaster and a fan base split straight down the middle. Some are calling it straight up unprofessional. Others say it's just human. And that's the real problem with footage like this. It doesn't come with a timeline. It doesn't show the days and weeks of tension bubbling under the surface. It doesn't capture the ignored emails, the passive-aggressive notes, or the private convos we'll probably never hear. It just shows one moment out of context, explosive, viral. And in today's digital world, that's all it takes. Because when people see that prop flying through the air, they don't think about everything that led up to it. They just see Rachel Zegler snapping, and they make up their minds. Who was filming and why? Rehearsals are supposed to be private. Phones off, cameras banned. So how did this footage get out? How did it land in media inboxes just hours before the lawsuit dropped? And why did it leak right after Rachel's countersuit threatened to flip the whole story? That's when things get real interesting. Rachel's legal team is saying this wasn't some random meltdown. It was a setup, a calculated play. They're claiming she was pushed, isolated, undermined, and the moment she snapped, someone hit record. If that's true, then this clip isn't a mistake. It's strategy. Somebody planned it. Which means this whole story, the lawsuit, the leaked memos, the grainy footage, could be part of something way darker. A full-on coordinated character takedown. And if Rachel can prove that in court, she doesn't just clear her name, she walks away with a win. A legal victory, a public redemption, and a whole new story. Rachel, the actress who didn't spiral, but survived. And of course, that's still a big if, because the producers, they've got their own case, their own witnesses, their own paper trail, and they're not backing down either. They're framing the clip as a final warning. The last in a string of red flags that just couldn't be ignored any longer. So, who's really telling the truth here? That depends on what drops next. Because in stories like this, the court of public opinion tends to make up its mind long before the lawyers get their turn. And right now, the internet's holding its breath. Everyone's waiting to see if another clip surfaces, if another voice speaks out, if another cast member steps forward with more. So if you're thinking this is all wrapped up, think again. This story's far from over, and the next chapter could flip everything on its head. Smash that like button, share this with your crew, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Turn on those notifications, because the biggest twist in this story might not be a video. It might be the silence that follows. See you on the next one.